Hi, this is Dan Gelbtuck. Really excited for the next episode of our Sounds of Solidarity video series and podcast. As folks know, we've been interviewing folks in the Episcopal City Mission Network that are working at the intersection of spirituality, healing, justice, and so really excited to bring this to you. Today, we're going to hear from my good friend, Dawson Allen. And Dawson works at the Center for Action and Contemplation in New Mexico. And Dawson will share a little bit about his own journey as it relates to spirituality, contemplative practice, power building work, social justice work. And then we'll share a little bit around how the CAC supports other organizations to do this. And so really excited to hear from Dawson. So Dawson, welcome. And please start by just sharing a little bit about yourself and your own journey.
Thanks, Dan. Well, first, it's a privilege to be here and to support the work that you all are doing, and the work of those that you all support. My name is Dawson Allen. He, him pronouns. I'm currently living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. A bit about my story is I actually grew up in the sort of evangelical movement. I grew up in the Calvary Chapel church that kind of came out of 60s and 70s out on the West Coast, and has made its way across the country. But I grew up in that space, and that was really kind of focused on a specific form of spiritual change. And at the time had a sort of apoliticism or even conservative politics that sort of quietly accompanied that spirituality. And my story was that once I got to college, 2016 was my first election. And that felt kind of like a no-brainer to me. It seemed like one person was a political candidate, and one was something very bad without any real political or historical analysis. And then really I was horrified to see the way that the spiritual communities that I came from had voted, and in fact sort of ushered in Trump 1.0. That number, 81% of white evangelicals, really kind of set me on a different trajectory, to help me try and understand how did this happen? How did this come about? This seems so different than the sort of basic things that I had been taught in those spaces growing up about loving your neighbor, loving your enemy, etc. So that really kind of set me on a different trajectory. I found myself studying race and theology in grad school, and then found my way into the immigrant rights movement. I didn't know what organizing was. I didn't know what the immigrant rights movement was, but there was a very generous organization that welcomed me in and taught me some things and try and helped me sort of locate myself in the moment, and find a way to contribute in the ways that I felt convicted about, which was making the world hopefully a more loving and just place for those immigrating to the U.S. And then really I found myself at CAC kind of as byproduct of that. I had kind of thrown out the spirituality because I had such a bad experience of what I grew up with and was sort of frustrated and angry with it. So I kind of threw it out and turned to the secular, to the organizing traditions, to material analysis and that sort of things, and then burnt out. And thankfully, I had a professor at the time who I am super grateful for, who introduced me to Howard Thurman, and had a class on the mysticism of Howard Thurman and the role that Thurman played in the civil rights movement and that sort of thing. And that kind of reintroduced me or opened the heart back up a little bit to the world of spirituality. And that's sort of through a long and indirect way, that's how I found myself at the CAC, and kind of trying to integrate those two things in my own life.
Oh, wow. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Dawson. And I don't know that I heard the Howard Thurman piece.
Hmm.
That's really, yeah, that's really interesting. As you probably know, he taught for many years at Boston University,
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
we're based, and we actually had an event at the Howard Thurman Center, and
Oh, sweet.
I've read at least one of his books, so he's with us as well, definitely as a guide. So that's a great connection. Wonderful. Well, as you know, because you were instrumental in it, the Center for Action and Contemplation just became a funder of Finding Our Way
Hmm.
Home and is going to help us move more resources to the spiritual needs of our grantee partners here in Massachusetts. And we're
Hmm.
so grateful to you for connecting with us and supporting us and CAC. And so, yeah, would love to hear just a little bit more about that. How do you think about the role of CAC in supporting movement work, the role of CAC in supporting groups that want to bring together justice work and spirituality work? So anything in that area, I'd love to talk about and hear.
Yeah, yeah, great question. Well, our conviction really stems from CAC's understanding of mission, and sort of the path of transformation, that our founder, Father Richard, has sort of articulated, in his body of work over the years. But CAC's mission is to introduce Christian contemplative wisdom and practice, that supports transformation and inspires loving action. And the way, that we sort of think of that is that CAC has one pivotal role to play in a much larger path of transformation. And so, yeah, we really believe that there's a diversity of ways, that people access the sort of wisdom and practices of the tradition. And there's a diversity of ways that people's loving action sort of gets worked out in the world. And that's sort of our approach to partnership is how do we find organizations in the broader landscape, who support opportunities for that ongoing transformation, recognizing no single nonprofit is going to hold the depth of transformation that the Christian tradition or any wisdom tradition, for that matter, holds. So that's sort of our orientation to partnership. And with you all's work, I mean, it just feels like such a no-brainer to me in the sense that, um, so much of what I understand that you all are doing is bringing the sort of healing, wholeness, spiritual modalities to those who are doing really meaningful power building, systems change, justice work, in tangible and concrete ways across the Boston, Massachusetts, sort of area. One, but thinking about this conversation, quote came up that I feel like kind of nails it. And this is actually a quote from Richard about his intent for founding the CAC, but I think it reflects so much of what you all are doing too. Um, he says, eventually, I found my way to the conviction that I should open the Center for Action and Contemplation in New Mexico to help people get thoroughly involved in the issues and goals of social justice, to help people turn to the poor, but from the right point of departure. I do believe that you can do the right thing, but for the wrong reasons. And I think that sort of wholeness or sense of home, is so much of what you all are trying to cultivate is, doing the right things for the right reasons, with a sort of sense of wholeness and love and justice. So yeah, huge supporter of the work that you all are doing. Really, really deeply believe in it.
Well, thanks so much for that quote, and thanks so much for sharing your reflections and your wisdom, and also just for being on this journey with us. And really deeply appreciated, and your friendship as well. So, thanks so much. Again, this was Dawson Allen from the Center for Action and Contemplation, and thanks everyone for listening.